Hi guys, this is Lucy Spraggan and you're listening to Interview Under Fire.
I don't need time to think it over, 'cause I've been thinking most my life.
All right, what's up, everyone? Welcome back to a brand new edition of Interview Under Fire. This is your host, Sunny, along with a very special guest, English singer-songwriter and an advocate for positive mental health, Lucy Spraggan. Quite the honor. Thank you so much for joining our podcast today on IUF. Lucy, this is an important yet exciting time here in the month of February for you with the release of your 6th studio album, Choices. I can't believe 6 is, you're at this point now in your career, and is set to drop on the 26th on Cooking Vinyl. And congratulations on all of the well-deserved recognition it's been getting so far, especially with like just a handful of singles, Flowers, Animal, Roots, Run, Sober. There's just so much to unravel about all this. But before we get to all that, how about we just start this off with a very important question, but a simple one, considering what we just talked about in the pre-interview. If you were a Spice Girl, what would your name be?
Oh, I thought you were going to say which Spice Girl would you be, which is easy for me because I love like working out. I'd be Sporty Spice.
Okay, so that counts as an answer. Now, what would you be if you could invent your own name?
I'd probably just have to be like Spraggy Spice.
That's actually pretty good because you wouldn't know like exactly what it meant like right off the bat,
No,
Spraggy
they'd have to learn my name. So there we go.
There you go. There's a mystery behind it. Just there's so much. You're so spraggy. That's gonna be a verb. That's like you actually have to like look it up in the dictionary, like what it is. It becomes an actual.
Put it in Urban Dictionary.
Yeah. So if Webster's listening, this is gonna be like on major podcast streams. So I'm sure Webster's gonna hopefully get their hands on this. Lucy, obviously, this has been just a crazy time for all of us. I'm going to ask another important question. How are you? I think that's just it's a simple question, but I think it's an important one to ask considering where we are at our lives at this point. How's life in the UK right now?
Well, the weather here is awful, but nothing is new there. But it makes it a lot more difficult. We are currently locked down as a nation. So this is our 3rd one of those where we're not allowed to do anything, not really allowed to leave the house.
Yeah.
Given that, I'm okay. I do a lot of fitness things. There is no music going on apart from, releasing an album. There's no live music anywhere, and there hasn't been for just about a year now.
Yeah.
So I'm okay. How are you?
I'm as okay as doing interviews, talking to amazing people like you. It's kind of kept me sane, so to speak. And we're almost, a year removed from the live concert experience, which is, I can't believe I'm even saying those words, but here we are in 2021. I still think it's like 2020 sometimes, just because how long we've just been stuck in that year. I keep forgetting it's a brand new year. I don't know if you feel the same way, kind of just that mundane type of, I don't know. Does that feel like that? Like you feel that same
it just feels like everything is the same as when it started.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like nothing has really changed. And I guess for both of our countries, that is the case, because instead of, nipping it in the bud and getting it under control, it's very much out of control. And as the two countries that are quite similar, we have really dealt with this really badly. Well, we haven't. Our governments have. And
yeah, that's true.
So, I'm the same as you. Like I've really found a lot of peace and solace in fitness. And other people have found it in different areas, and I'm just really glad that I did find it.
Yeah, I'm glad you did too. And I do want to touch on that fitness just a little bit later on here, but being away from the stage a lot as of late, like we're talking about, how are you keeping up your vocals and, guitar playing these days? Is that affecting your musicianship? Has anything changed for your routine wise lately, if at all?
Well, I did a live stream show in December, and it was really funny because I listened back and it's so pitchy.
But it was, how was that experience? I was always wondering like how the live concert experience is for the artist.
Well, I didn't want to do mine pre-recorded. Like I was very much against pre-recording it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it took a lot of effort. We had it fully live. So I was receiving questions from an audience who were at home through my in-ears. So the sound engineer was asking questions into my ears live on stage. So instead of audience applause, I just had, oh, Julie in south of England asks this question. So it was good. It was really good. And it reminded me of what I love, but it wasn't the full.
Yeah. I mean, I know what makes Lucy Spraggan is the live experience, just the live atmosphere that you exhibit when you're on stage. I mean, and you've been at this for 10 years, Lucy. I mean, 2011, you can even trace it all the way back to performing opening mic shows, in the UK, and you're obviously the experience on the X Factor in 2012. So having said all that, how you just described the live streaming, how was the live experience touring life for you personally? Because you've done some extensive touring throughout your career, Lucy. You played at South by Southwest, like we talked about, which is about 3 to 4 hours away from where I am. You played at Glastonbury. You played at Kendall Calling. You've even shared the stage with Melissa Etheridge, for crying out loud. And now we're all kind of just taking like an unexpected step back. And does it make you have a growing appreciation of the touring life? Because we're talking culture, fans, even the food, so many things.
I was talking to a merch seller who I'm good friends with, who's worked for me before, and we were discussing this. I don't appreciate it anymore because I loved it. I loved it, and I've always loved it, and it's always been my favorite thing, my joy and my life. And so we were saying, it's funny that you see a few people say, "Oh, I'm going to appreciate it more," but oh man, did I appreciate it at the time? I used to actively sit, and especially when I was in another country, or I would take a moment to say, "This is what I do. This is amazing." And I played Manchester Academy, which is a venue that I've always wanted to play, like kind of a home crowd, to like 3,500 people on my last headline tour, and I cried on stage, like, because I get so, it overwhelms me.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm actually quite happy to say that there's nothing I could have done more. That I don't look back and say, I wish I said yes to that show, because I have said yes to every show since I played my first show when I was 12 years old. Like, there have been no times that I've said no. So I guess it's just a very strong feeling of like I miss it more than anything. But I couldn't have done more, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, and again, I appreciate the music that you've done. Like you went on such an amazing path to get to where you are right now. And I don't know how the schedule was for you before the pandemic. I was at a show every week. And now we're just like, here we are. And something that's been a popular topic of discussion on Interview Under Fire, and you've seen this for the last, I guess I'm going to say a year now, is live streaming, which you just did. And we've had a lot of other artists on the show. They talk about their live streaming experience, how they would, sell virtual tickets to fans. And then they would, sometimes they would pre-record a show and they would display it for the fans, or do what you did, do on the go and just take the, the cues from the headphones and see where you end up. But with all the experience that you've taken in, Lucy, throughout your career, the many venues that you played in, the fan experience, the cultures that you've just, that just overwhelmed you, just the feelings that you have. Do you think that the quarantine-induced live streaming surge that we're seeing right now from all these artists that's, popping up left and right, is that going to affect the touring musician business going forward in your eyes? Like, do you still see bands, I don't know, doing this even after all this is over?
I guess if they like it. I guess well, there already are platforms where you can sign up and you can do a live stream from your living room. I can't, because my internet is so slow. Like, that is purely the reason why
Okay, yeah.
I haven't been able to. But I think the drive, when we are allowed to be back on the road, I would dare say you can add an extra quarter of your regular capacity to your shows without hesitation.
Yeah.
Because I've been playing shows since I was 12. Yeah, people always say to me, what was the first live show you went to, or like what was the last band you watched live? I'm like, I have no idea, because all I do is play
Yeah.
shows. And now I'm like, I'm gonna go and watch live music. Because generally when I watch live music, all I can see is like when someone breaks a string, or when a guitar tech is freaking out, or when someone's pedal doesn't work. That's what I see when I watch a live show. I can't see it without the inner workings.
Yeah.
I
In a
can
way,
kind of always see the person pulling the strings.
yeah, in a way, I think that also makes the live experience what it is, because you get to see almost like what happens behind the set. It gives a whole different atmosphere as opposed to, doing what we are on screen. That's a whole different thing. Of course, I have the liberty to mosh in my room if I want to, but how much longer can I do that for? And
I think the point is, the thing that you can't replicate is the feeling in a
yeah,
room. You can't, regardless of the live stream or how well you portray it, you can't get that feeling of bodies in a room, because there's something very magical about that. And I've always said that the power that is created by people designating their love, their screams, their shouts, their hands in the air, their song, there's nothing that rivals that.
and there's no right or wrong answer to what you just said. I really like that answer, because I've had some artists who say, yeah, I would love to do live streaming. It still allows me a way for me to engage with my fans. And some artists would say, oh, I'm not doing anything until this is over. So you never know, because you put it right on the head right there, because I mean, making the best of the situation is easier said than done. And some artists are doing it, some artists aren't. And who knows what's going to happen down the road. There's always that uncertainty. But let's talk about something that is for certainty is, Lucy, you are a big advocate for, positive mental health, like I mentioned earlier, and it's something that you take to heart. You went through and talked about your relationship with alcohol, anxiety, depression, and struggle with moderation, all kinds of things. It's not an easy subject to just discuss out into the open. I totally get that. And being a person myself who also deals with mental health, it's just an inspiring thing to see you with your upbringings to take the helm on something as tender and impactful like this. And you started Fully Rewired. And I wanted to touch base on the fitness aspect of that again. And that is based on Fully Rewired. For my listeners who don't know, that is based on changing, the lifestyle, making things clearer, becoming healthier. It's just everything you want to pass on to other people. So what was your biggest personal takeaway from that experience?
Well, I had, like you say, a rough time. I mean, I've abused alcohol for as long as I remember or don't remember. But I started drinking when I was like 12,
Mm.
um, which isn't that rare in the UK. And it was always just a bad time, but I didn't know any different. I never lived up my life without it, and I my life kind of ended up getting very well. I sort of hit a fork in the road. I was married, but I was also on tour for like 13 months in a row. I was trying to like maintain a home life, but at the same time maintain my actual life, which is being on the road. And I was drinking to forget about the fact that I had all these problems. And when I realized that I was doing that, I went out one night, about 2 bottles of Jameson's. I woke up in the morning and I just said, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm just not doing it. And I quit drinking then. And that was the last time I had a drink. That was like 18 months ago.
Wow,
And
congrats. That's 18 months sober. That's awesome. That's great. Congratulations.
thank you. And so it just not I stopped drinking, and about 6 months in I went to Vegas with my friends, and that's a big test of sobriety, going to Vegas. And
Yeah, right.
we all went out till like 6 in the morning, and I went to bed and I couldn't sleep, and something just said to me, you need to get some shoes on and some shorts and you need to run. And I had never run in my life, let me tell you. Just I always say I would run towards an ice cream van and away from the police
I
sirens.
still would do that.
Yeah. And I don't know, from then on, I started running. I hated it, and then I started to do it. I did it every day, and I started to learn about discipline. I started being more conscious about what I was eating. I lost about 50 pounds. Um, and everything that I did was born from wanting to be better. And that's why my plan is called Fully Rewired. It's because somehow I managed to rewire the way my relationship with myself,
Mm-hmm.
in turn, which was my relationship with food, with other people, with alcohol, drugs, anything I could use as a crutch. And yeah, that's me.
Yeah. And how can my listeners, how can they find Fully Rewired like on the internet? Do they just search it? Is there a
Yeah,
website? Yeah.
fullyrewired.com, or
Awesome.
just have to check out Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah. And I know you like Ben and Jerry's ice cream, and I love Ben and Jerry's. I have the vegan version of Ben and Jerry's. I think it's cooked the peanut PB and cookies that's sitting in the fridge right now.
Oh,
I don't
it's
know. I
so
don't know.
good.
I don't know where I read that, but as soon as I knew that you like Ben and Jerry's, I'm like, okay, this is gonna be great. Like this is perfect. Like Lucy, we've touched everything from top to bottom. I promise we'll talk about choices right now. The sixth album coming out February 26th on Cooking Vinyl. And this is the follow-up to 2019's Today Was a Good Day. Now, when I heard this album, it was, with your sound, Lucy, it was just a blended fusion of folk pop, indie pop. There was acoustics. I mean, this was as good as it gets when it comes to singer-songwriter. And I mentioned the songs earlier, Flowers, from to Sober, to Heartbreak, to I Spent the Night in the Desert, to Wild, to Why Don't We Start From Here. It took me to a whole new dimension within your songwriting. And at a time like this, it was perfect for something like Choices to come to the surface. It was very moody, very atmospheric. And you said it yourself. You said you wanted it to be an earthy, gritty sound for some songs. And like you said, you spent a lot of time in America and you wanted it to represent that like desert rat, Mustang driving down desert roads kind of feel. And I'm like, this is exactly like what it is. Like, I mean, of course, it's funny because I'm actually going to Austin in a couple of days. This will be a perfect album to just put on as I'm driving down. And I don't know what the pandemic is going to be. Hopefully it's like empty roads. It'll be the perfect atmosphere. Having said all that, how much did things change from when you first started composing on this album to where you ended up finishing it? Did a lot change in between? Did nothing change in between? Was there already a specific sound you knew you wanted with Choices?
It's funny. I mean, I Spent a Night in the Desert is a song about that trip to Vegas,
Yeah.
where I discovered running. I actually ran the morning after that. That was like we stayed in a tiny house in the middle of the
Yep.
desert, about an hour out of Vegas, and it was beautiful. And even then, I hired a Harley that trip, and I drove through the Valley of Fire. Like I just rode down on a Harley with my friend on the back, and in my mind, we're listening to like Born to Be Wild as we're driving through the desert, and in my mind I knew that like I wanted that. I wanted I wanted it to sound like what the Valley of Fire looks like.
Yeah, and it
Fire.
did. It was perfect.
And I just I think I knew, because of the amount of time I'd spent in America. Like I just love American culture, and that's what I wanted it to sound like. So it's a huge compliment that you think it does.
I like how I Spent a Night in a Desert is taken from a simple memory you had with one night with your best friends in Vegas, which is when you tell somebody that, like, oh, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, right? Nope, that's not the case. It's a totally different way around. I mean, this is actually out in the open. You're actually getting your spirit out there, what you actually felt at the moment. And I love that. It was just an ode to your best friends. And with Choices, you did record this in Scotland. Am I
I
correct?
did.
Right. Now, as far as like production and mixing and mastering, who did you go to for that? Did you have a team together? Was there already a specific person you already had in mind when it came to putting that part?
So I write with a guy called Joe, who's in a band called Cattle and Cane, who you should definitely check out. They're amazing.
Definitely will check out.
They're siblings, and they sing like these amazing harmonies. They're amazing. And so they had produced their record with Pete Hamilton, and I just love the sound of the record. So I basically, in true me fashion, was like, "Hey Pete, want to do my record?" Danton Supple mixed it, who is an amazing mixer. We recorded it during a pandemic. So
Yeah.
normally I would be sitting behind a producer saying, I don't like that. But instead, he really built the tracks. He would build a skeleton of a track, and then he'd send it to me, and then I'd kind of give my opinion on it, and we build it that way. It was done very much online, and then to record the vocals, we were in lockdown, so I had to travel up to Scotland in my camper van, stay in my camper van till I got to a cottage where I recorded the vocals in isolation, and then came back down.
That almost sounds like Vegas vibes again, like kind of just like, right?
Truly,
Yeah.
this whole experience has been semi-magical, even though it's been it's entrenched in quite a lot of sadness and despair, or some of it has been quite magical.
I mean, I think it's easy to look back to the year 2020 and say, okay, this was the pandemic album. I think it's easy to like just fall back on that. But Lucy, look at the things that we're talking about. I think it was just a way for you to even grow even more that you may have not tapped into before.
Well, I mean, when we first had to stop and the whole world stopped, and those first 3 months, I was like, I don't know who I am without touring.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea who I was without this thing that I do. And I didn't know how to turn on things in my house because I don't live here.
Okay. Yeah.
I know how to turn on the tour bus on the TV, the TV on the tour bus, but I don't know how
having to learn
on.
like stay inside. I remember like the first month of quarantine. I was like, this is great. And then after like 2 months, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to figure some things out here.
Yeah.
That's a total trip. And you have a song like Flowers, which is about finding your new bit of confidence and looking after your own self, not having to rely on others. Then you have a song like Roots, which is realizing who you are is one of the most powerful things you can do. And we talked about I Spent a Night in the Desert. So having said that, to what level do you like to have a theme for your music, Lucy? Is that more about helping you write or sound, or is that more for the audience? Like, how important are themes to you?
I think theme wise, all of my songs, they, regardless of whether they're in first person or third person, the narrative is always about like perseverance and keep on going. And it's about well, this one is very much, this album is funny because the theme is like, don't mess with me.
Yeah.
And don't let people mess with you. And that's the first time that has been the theme. But the theme is important because the music reflects how I feel. So it's important because I want people to know how I feel with my album, and I want them to be able to relate to it.
I think this, remember when I said earlier how this album it's coming out at the right time, because you can stay in lockdown for so long and you kind of have to find a way to wake yourself up from that, because you can get into that lifestyle. Remember, I think we briefly talked about it. There's like a specific line. You're just like, okay, day 1, day 2, day 3. Now you're like at day 365. And then choices. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that this album kind of like just wakes you up from that. It's like, okay, I can't let, whatever's happening in the world take me down. I want to be able to persevere. And this is a really good message that
it's interesting that
yeah.
you say it, because I wrote so much of it before lockdown, but I was locked down by a lot of things. Like there are songs on there about my divorce. There are songs on there about getting sober, about finding fitness. I had already locked myself in, and I just got out. And then the physical lockdown happened. Like mentally, this album is about being released from being locked in by myself.
Yeah, it's a whole different perspective, but I think it has a bigger impact than, I mean, just what's on the surface. And yeah, you nailed it on the head. Do you see, choices, now that you're talking about this, do you see choices as a snapshot of where you are in a certain time in your life looking back?
100%. Like, it's actually kind of chronological in how my mental workings went. It starts kind of moody and sad and confused is the first like 5 songs, up until If I Had a God. Like, that song is literally saying, if I had religion, would this be an easier experience for me?
God, I love that song. That's a great
And
song.
and at that point I was so upset and confused in life that I was trying to reach out, like,
Mhm.
if you are there, come on, this is the time I need you. And then as the album progresses, it's like, oh, I'm finding myself. I'm an animal. And then, like, you better get your gun. And then, the last song is why don't we start from here? And so, yeah, it's that chronological. Yeah, it started off not so great, but now it's a brand new start and it's a new beginning. And like, this is where I am.
From the different experiences and perspectives in your timeline that you have taken in, which we have already discussed about, whether it's open mic shows in the UK to the heavily impactful X Factor appearance, to touring the UK and the US and beyond, being an ambassador for mental health, rebuilding yourself while having 6 albums under your decorated arsenal of music. Lucy, what is the most rewarding part for someone like you who is now at this point in their career? At the same time, has been involved with so many other different aforementioned brilliant artists, organizations, people throughout that timeline, and you've experienced so much already. I don't even think you're 30 yet. Is that right? Like you're not even. Yeah, I just now reached 30 recently, and I can't believe I'm even saying that. Do you ever stop to just take a look back at how far you've come?
I started to do that like this year, well, last year, because I've spent so long chasing my own tail of being like, this isn't good enough. I need to do more. I need to do more. I need to do more. And I have a few like musician friends who still play in the pubs and they still doing the club circuit, and they in the past, I'll be complaining about something or something that I must do, and they've said, Luce, look at what you have done. And I always used to be like, that's nothing, because I kind of have like imposter syndrome. I never really believed I did any of that. It was all pot luck. Like, it was all just it just arrived. None of it was
Yeah,
my hard work. And up until last year, and I sat there and I listened to the 6 albums, and I've been looking back at videos of shows, and I think like, wow, like I played Glastonbury to tens of thousands of people, and they came to watch my show, and so yeah, I do now. I do look,
that's
and I think that's okay.
it is okay, because at the same time, I fall into that trap sometimes thinking, I've done 100 shows of this, obviously, and again, I wouldn't be here today without your music, but it's important to stay humble. But to what extremity, does that humble sit with you? It's like, oh, you did a great job on this. Like, oh my God, Sonny, you did such a great job on this podcast. I'm like, nah, I'm okay. I don't know. You don't mean that,
No,
but
it's hard.
subconsciously,
It's
yeah,
really hard.
yeah, subconsciously you fall into that trap, and then you walk away from that conversation just talking to yourself like, why did I say that? I'm actually pretty good. I don't know.
Yeah.
You ever feel like that?
Yes. Yes. And I think that is being an artist, isn't it? Is some days you are great, and when you're on stage you're the best. And then sometimes you're alone and you think, "Oh no. I I'm not very good." And
Yeah.
then it's just a cycle. It's a perpetual cycle of that, but I humility is very, very important.
Yeah.
And there are all different ways of being, and some people forget that you can really appreciate your own work and be humble at the same time. And it's hard. It
It
is
is.
hard to appreciate
It
yourself.
is. You know what I'm thinking of? You level with me on this, because what is that? You get the invite to a party, but you're not going to go to the party. You just want the invite. And
Yes.
it's kind of like the same mindset. It's like, I want you to tell me I'm doing good, but I'm going to deny it anyway. But please keep it on. Keep going.
It's like a cat. You know how cats really want
Yeah.
to be
Yeah.
touched, but they
Exactly.
don't. Yeah.
Yeah, I adopted a dog, about 2 years ago, and he acts like a cat. Like, he just chooses when to actually show up. It's weird. My dog has like, I'm going totally off the rails here, but as far as like the polarization of just the attitude, yeah, my dog kind of has that same tendency. Like, he just wants to be petted and just walks away. It's like, no, go away now. I think my dog is part cat. But anyway, that's if we're talking about pets.
Even worse if he's part artist.
Oh my gosh. You know what? He's actually sitting right outside this door. So we'll see what happens when I open it up. Lucy. Okay. So this is the last part of the interview. Again, this has been such a pleasure. This is the last part, unfortunately, but this is my favorite part. What I'm going to do, I do this for a good handful of my guests. It always throws them off. I'm going to put you on the hot seat. I'm going to see if you know the lyrics to your own songs. Are you ready for that challenge?
Oh, no. Someone that hasn't been on stage for
Hey, listen. This is I love your answer because I've had some musicians who say, oh yeah, I'll get every song, and they get every song wrong. And then some artists would say, oh, I'm not going to get any song right, and they get every song right. It happens every time, I promise. And of course, my listeners know how this goes. I think I'm making you worried. I'm thinking I'm making you nervous. You're like relaxing on the back of the couch right now. I'm just like, oh gosh. So I didn't pick all the songs. I picked a handful of them. What I'm going to do, I'm going to start you off easy. I promise. I'm going to read a lyric and you just say the name of the song. Okay.
Okay.
You ready?
No.
Yeah. All right, here we go. You got this. I think you got this. I have confidence in you. Here we go. They say old habits die the hardest. I think I learned mine from the best. Sunrise guilt and sunset shame. Wish I could move and change my name. I'd like some nights I know I won't forget. I love that line.
That song is Sober.
Yep, from Choices. And yeah, see, all right, you're doing good so far.
Okay.
Here we go. And I'm not gonna go in order. That's another thing. Here we go. And this is actually, this song was coming. We got the best quality for less in Texas. 2 sunsets straight. We learned it's a state you don't mess with. Papa John's with the TV on. Back when summer just begun. My few but favorite memories of Texas.
That is one of my favorite songs I ever wrote. It's called Interstate.
Yeah. Is that from Join the Club? Because Okay, because I saw it was also from Top Room I saw it on Top Room at the Zoo, like on that.
So Top Room at the Zoo, yeah, it was on both records because Top Room at the Zoo was it was produced by me and my friend, and the next one was produced by Columbia Records.
Okay, all right. Hey, all right. That's I love that song. I hope you have to perform that obviously when you're in Texas when you come back.
I always do.
Here we go. I was the cause of this disease. I am just a selfish person. I will lie, I will deceive. I crave the texture of your skin. I replace you with a memory.
That song is called Coming Down, and it's from We Are.
Yep, 2015. That's a great song. Hey, you're doing good. You say you weren't ready. Look at this. You're knocking this out of the park. All right, a few more. This may be one of my favorite songs of yours, if not my favorite. Okay. If you don't take moments to be yourself, you'll spend your life being someone else. Think of all those feelings that you never felt. It's more than okay to ask for help.
That song is Lightning from
Today was a
good day.
Yep, 2019, which feels like last year again. Again, a great song. All right, moving on. Man, you're doing good. You said you were not ready for this. Look at
I was worried, and now I'm like, I did write these. So
yeah, if anything, I'm making you rethink your set list. Whenever you come back, maybe I'm just making that out for you. Here we go. Sure. I'd spend a lifetime in the living dead with you, and we'd spend our weekdays howling at the moon. And I'd put up with your twisted attitude, and we hate each other. You and I, it's paradise. I feel like when I read these lyrics, I'm reading a lullaby. Like, all right, time to go to sleep, kid. And I'm just reading these lyrics because it's delivered on just a whole different perspective as opposed to you singing it. Sorry. Anyway, what's the song?
Modern Day Frankenstein from I Hope You Don't Mind Me Writing.
2017. Yeah, I don't know if you feel that way. Like now I'm reading. I don't know if you've ever heard lyrics being delivered this way before.
Not really. I mean, they have a different movement, which is really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting because again, it shows a whole different perspective. Also shows the growth in your lyrics from just how impressive your whole catalog is. All right, just a couple more. Let's go places no one knows, no one goes. Tell me things no one knows. I look at you just the way you like, so you'll know what you'll do with me tonight. And no one's ever made me feel this way. That's why I want to tell you every day. Why are you blushing?
Because I wrote that song when I was like 15.
That's from Top Room at the Zoo. What's the song?
Yeah, Butterflies.
Yeah. How do you feel when you hear that lyric? It's just yeah.
That song is also on Join the Club. I mean, there's a couple of like duplicate songs from those two records. I love it, and it's actually a big fan favorite, but to me, it's so early Lucy. Like, it is baby Lucy in terms of songwriting. I mean, it's a great song for somebody that age to have written, but I guess when I look back, I just think.
I mean, think about this. If I could just take these lyrics, I mean, as I'm reading this, I'm just realizing I could take these lyrics and plug it into, I don't know, choices. I feel like it would be long. Again, I think that just shows the growth of your, just your songwriting. It's very impressive to see that. All right, 2 more, I promise. Here we go. You're doing good. You're like moving the laptop around. You're like adjusting yourself on the
I'm very competitive.
This is good. All right. I'll admit that I could look fitter. I might get jealous, but I'll never be a quitter. Stumble on your heels while I do up my shoelace. I might be a bitch, but I'll never be two faces.
That's Paper Dreams.
Yeah, from Top Room. It's Top Room, right? Top Room at the Zoo?
Top Room at the Zoo. It was also on Join the
Yeah,
Club.
another one. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I also wrote that when I was very young.
Yeah.
It has
Hey,
attitude.
you gotta bring that back. I'm just telling you. All right, here we go. Last one. This is more recent. I wrote a song that got me out of there. The town that looks much better in the rearview mirror. I could hear them singing as I disappeared. It broke my heart. Yeah, it broke my heart.
It's Love is the Best Revenge, which was on Today Was a Good Day.
That's the last song. Lucy, I'm gonna give you another round of applause here. You got every song right. You were worried that you were not going to get this right. This was amazing. And obviously, with these questions, that they would be like, if you did get a song wrong, you would have to go a hot sauce level higher. So you did pretty well.
Oh, I would have stayed on mild, wouldn't I?
I can't even eat that stuff anymore. I don't know, but we'll see. Like, obviously, when we do this in person, we'll put that to the test. But Lucy, this has been again such an honor. Do you have any last words? Any shout outs? Anything you want to plug in about, just the new record going forward, just for the fans and listeners who are tuning in?
Just anybody that's even taken a look on my social media or streamed a song or watched a video or left me a comment, like, I appreciate your support in whichever form it comes in more than you could ever possibly imagine, especially in a time like this. So thank you so much, everybody.
No, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Stick around for 1 minute after the interview, just real quick. Everyone who's listening, this is Lucy Spraggan. Choices comes out February 26th on Cooking Vinyl. If you can, buy the merch, buy the record. It helps out the artist. It's easier said than done. I mean, I can't preach that any more than I can't express that enough because it really helps the artist. I still have a stack of records in the corner of my room that I still buy. I still buy records. So, and buy the record.
Some really cool splatter records as well. So
there we go. Hey, if that doesn't buy you in, I don't know what does. And you can listen to this podcast on interviewonfire.com, on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. We're on Amazon now. I just figured that out. Interview on Fire is on Amazon now, so you can search us up anywhere. And Lucy, again, thank you again. Stay healthy out there. Hope to see you in person. Come to Texas. You're gonna have a really great warm welcome here, and I'll look to hear that song from Texas and eat a lot of barbecue.
Yes.
Thank you.
If I'm gonna be someone that I believe in, if I'm gonna be someone that people like, I've had all the time I need to think it over. I gotta be sober, alright.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to Interview Under Fire podcast. If you guys liked what you heard, please subscribe and share our channel. And please leave a 5-star review, as that helps us tremendously. And also, if you guys have any questions or comments, you can find us at Interview Under Fire at Facebook or at Instagram. Or you can write us directly at schwag@interviewunderfire.com. That's SCHWAG at interviewunderfire.com. Or Rezablade. That's REZABLADE at interviewunderfire.